I know I'm not gonna be able to focus in a lot of this video because this chair spins. Welcome back to Bedtime Talk with Kelly, even though it's the middle of the day. It's gonna be a long video, I can already feel it. All right, we're ready. Hey guys, if you are a boy and you clicked on this video, good for you. Good for you, because someday or now you might have a wife, or you might have a wife one day who's gonna have to go through this, so you should be prepared. Let's get started. So when I was 38 weeks pregnant, I had a regular doctor's appointment. This doctor's appointment was on January 24th. My doctor came in and she was like, how are you feeling? And I was like, girl, I am ready to have this baby. I have the nursery done. The wipies are in the wipey warmer. I am ready to have this child. And she was like, I mean, it's hard to tell, but you're probably not gonna go into labor for a little bit longer. So she was like, let me do a checkup on you. So she did a checkup, like a full on checkup. And she was like, you know, I'm gonna run some tests because I think you might be leaking amniotic fluid. So I was like, oh my gosh. Amniotic fluid is basically the fluid that surrounds the baby. So if my water broke, then I'd be leaking amniotic fluid, which means I'm like in labor. So she was like, I don't think it is, but let me go check. My heart was just like racing. It was like, there's no way. There's no way. This is the time. I'm ready. God, I am ready. So she comes in and she just like opens the door and she's like, it's time. So many thoughts were just like zooming through my mind. What? It's not time. Like, mind you, this is what I wanted. I wanted it to be time. But when the reality of it came that it was time, I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready to push a baby out of my body. My puppies are at home. They sleep with me and Eric every night. How are they gonna sleep? Are they gonna get any sleep? I don't have my bag. I Googled, I asked people what to put in my hospital bag. I can't not have my hospital bag. I haven't had lunch and I am starving. Is it Sunday? Is Chick-fil-A open? After all of those irrational thoughts were going through my head, the more rational thoughts came in. I'm leaking amniotic fluid, and that is super dangerous for the baby because if you leak too much, there's no more fluid for the baby to be in there. So that was a mess. I was like, do I have time to go home? She's like, nope, we're admitting you right now. My mom was like, can she have a wheelchair? Because I don't think she's well enough to walk. Because I told you guys that I had dizzy spells throughout my pregnancy, like my last couple months. So they brought me this wheelchair and they're wheeling me away, and she's like, you need to call Eric. So I call Eric and he's like in the middle. I can tell, like when Eric answers the phone, I can tell if he's like busy or if he's not busy. And I could totally tell that he was like with people and super busy, but he knew that I was at my doctor's appointment, so he answered. I'm like, hi honey, trying to like be calm and collected so that he doesn't freak out. Hi honey, just calling to let you know, it's time. And he's like, wait, what? And he's using like his work Eric voice, so he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, they said that I'm technically in labor right now. And he's like, I gotta go. He hangs up on me. And I was like, God, let him be calm. 5 seconds later, he called me back. He's like, I'm on my way. So after that, I called my mother-in-law. Those were the 3 people that I wanted in the room with me, was Eric, my mom, and my mother-in-law. It was like my circle. Those were my peeps, and they were about to help me get through this. I was just not convinced that I was in labor. I didn't feel any pain. I just felt a whole lot of heartbeat and a whole lot of anxiety. That was at like 3:30-ish. Nothing was happening. My contractions weren't, what's the word? Intensifying. They were like, okay, we have your room ready. And I like walked into the room and like saw the bed, and then saw like the little bed with the heating lamp. And it was just like so, this is where it's all gonna happen. In this room is where our lives are gonna change forever. I was excited, but also terrified. The nurse came in and was like, okay, so it's 9 p.m. We're gonna give you some Pitocin. Pitocin is something that strengthens your contractions, and it basically gets things moving. So she gave me the first dose. I'm not joking, you guys. Within minutes, my whole mood changed. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like period cramps times 15. I knew that I wanted to get an epidural, but I was terrified because I had heard horror stories of like getting your epidural and then you got it too early and it wore off and you actually felt the actual labor part. And I was not about feeling that. I was like, I'll take contractions over feeling that part. I wanted to wait to get my epidural as long as I possibly could. But then also the scary thing about that is that if you wait too long, there's a point where you can't get the epidural anymore. So you kind of have to balance, but it's a terrifying place, especially as a first-time mom. You don't know when the right time is. In my head, I was like, I'm gonna go through these contractions as much as possible. And then I specifically remember at 10 p.m., I started to get back labor. So when the contractions would come, I would feel it in my stomach, but also all the way towards my back. Guys, I can't even remember what it felt like because I really believe that God like erased it from my memory because it was very painful. I went into like this zone. It was like I was holding onto the bedside little thing and I was just squeezing it as hard as I possibly could and arching my back. I remember that was what kind of helped me a little bit. I remember Eric wanting to hold my hand, but I knew that I would physically break his hand if I was to hold it, and I really didn't want to do that. And it's funny because everyone was warning Eric about how like I'm gonna like scratch his arms and like punch him in the face. Just kidding, whoa, too far. Or get like super annoyed and bugged with him. But honestly, I never did. I just remember him being so supportive that I didn't get annoyed or bothered, or I like loved that he was there with me and that he was like going through this with me. And he, in between contractions, I felt nothing. He hadn't eaten, so he was starving, and they had brought him McDonald's, but he didn't want to bring it in because he knew I was hungry. So in between contractions, he would run outside, take a bite of McDonald's, and then run back. He's so sweet. He made these contractions doable. Woo! And then after that, by the grace of Jesus, I got through 3 hours of hard. Sorry, I had to put my hair up because just talking about this got me all hot and nervous. So I went through 3 hours of very hard labor. Now, I'm probably one of the bigger babies in the world because mothers do this without any drugs. I can't, like, you deserve like an award because seriously, that was some of the worst pain in my whole life. I don't know how you could have gone through more with the contractions intensifying even more. So you know when your hair's just bugging you? Through all of this pain, the nurse would come in and she'd be like, okay, so are you ready for your epidural yet? Nope, not ready yet. Sorry, not ready. Okay, well, what's your pain level at? Like a 5. I was obviously way higher than a 5. I was like at a 13.6. I was just really scared that it would wear off. So I was like, I could still handle this. It sucks, but I think I can still handle this. So I was saying no. At 12:30 a.m. was when I was like, I seriously feel like I'm gonna die. Can't do it no more. Give me the drugs. The epidural lovely guy came in and he like wheeled in his stuff and he's like, hey, how's your night? And I was like, it's fantastic. How's yours? Yes, the epidural is scary. I was absolutely terrified to get this epidural. Not for the reasons that you think. I'm kind of afraid of needles, but I was not afraid of the needle. That's not what scared me. What scared me was I had waited to the point to where my contractions were so bad that I was shaking. And everyone knows with an epidural, the biggest thing is that you have to stay still, or else that needle will hit somewhere else in your back. You could be paralyzed. Jesus, take the wheel. And I told the nurse, I was like, I don't think I can stay still. Like, there's no way I can stay still during contractions because you're getting this epidural while your contractions are still happening. So if you get a contraction when he's mid in your back with the needle, you cannot move. So the nurse was like, oh, you'd be surprised at what you can handle. And I was like, okay. Okay. And at Presbyterian, their policy is that nobody can be in the room while you get your epidural. So my mom, Eric's mom, and Eric had to leave the room. Like, leave me. They had to leave me. They all like put hands on me and prayed, and then they left. And I just sat there, and I remember looking down and like just tears were just coming down and hitting the pillow that I was holding, and I was praying and hoping that I did not move. Like 5 minutes went by and the guy was like, did you feel that? And I was like, no. and then like 6 minutes go by, and then 7 minutes go by, and then 15 minutes went by. I didn't feel the numbing needle before the big needle at all. I didn't feel the epidural needle, and I did not feel one contraction. Not one. I was able to stay still. I was in no pain, and it happened in 15 minutes. That's a pretty long time. And I was like, wait, that's it? You did it? Like you did it. And he was like, yeah, you did great. Good job. I was seriously in shock. I was like, there's no way that you just put like this big of a needle into my back and I didn't have contractions for 15 minutes. And he's like, no, you've been having contractions. It's just, And I was like, that's you. So everybody came back into the room and they were like, how was it? It took forever. And I was like, it's great. And seriously, the epidural gave immediate relief. Oh my gosh, it was like a different world. I was relaxed, I was joking, I was like singing some Taylor Swift, but I was exhausted. I got to go to sleep. As soon as I laid down, like 15 minutes after they gave me the epidural, I got like the shakes. That was actually really uncomfortable because all I wanted to do was go to sleep, and that kind of kept me awake. But after like 20 minutes, those went away and I was able to crash. So I woke up at like 7:30 a.m. and the nurse actually woke me up, and Eric and his mom and my mom were still sleeping. They were like all scattered throughout the room on chairs. And she was like, okay, I'm going to check to see if you're dilated. If you're not dilated, that could mean that the epidural slowed down your labor, which is not good, because remember, I got the epidural and I went through all that pain because I wanted the epidural to last throughout the whole labor. And if it slowed down my labor, then I would have done that for nothing because the epidural might have possibly worn off. So I was like, oh my gosh, God, please let me be dilated. Please, please, please. So she checked me and I was ready to start pushing immediately. I was so happy because I was like,
is epidural still working?
I mean, you know, let's have a baby. So I woke up Eric and he was like groggy. I was like, honey, hello, wake up. It's time. I pictured like fluorescent lights like in your face and in your lady area. 10 different people in the room running in and out, people sweating. I pictured it so differently than it actually was, because when she was getting ready, it was just one nurse. She didn't even turn on the lights in the room. It was just natural light with the sunrise. And she was like using a very quiet voice, like, all right, well, we're gonna start pushing now. Are you ready? At 8 a.m. I started pushing, and everything that I learned in like the Lamaze class that Eric and I went to was like, phew. She was like, you're gonna hold your breath, and as long as you can hold your breath, that's how long you're gonna push. And until you can't hold your breath anymore, that's when you'll stop pushing. So I was like, okay. Not what I learned at all, but okay. You're nice and you're pretty, so I'm gonna listen to you. I didn't find pushing, like the actual labor, hard. And that is probably because I had an epidural and I couldn't feel anything. Eric was making me laugh throughout the whole entire thing. When I would like start pushing, and he'd be like, yeah, get it, girl, get it, come on, yeah, you have this baby, get it. And I would stop and I'd start laughing. I was like, why are you joking? You're messing up my breathing. So then after about like 15 minutes, the nurse like left me in between contractions, because you're only supposed to push during contractions, and she left me and she went to, and she turned on the heating lamp by the bed. And like that, like when she did that, my heart like started pounding. I was like, wait, what is she doing? It's only been like 15 minutes. And then she walked over to the phone and she called and she's like, yeah, it's time, you might want to come down here. So she was calling the doctor to come in. I was like, oh my gosh, this is literally about to happen. Like, we're about to have our baby. Whew. And she came back and she's like, okay, honey, so she's okay, so a couple pushes away and he's gonna be here. Oh my gosh. Oh man. And I was like, yes, it's only been 15 minutes, baby, come through, I'm ready for you. I pushed for 28 minutes and he was here at 8:28. They immediately put him on my chest, and just looking at him, and oh, like this baby is 100% me and 100% Eric. And he's here. Like, Eric and I created him, and he's here. He's a human, and he has 10 toes, and he has 10 fingers, and he's real, and he's beautiful, and he's perfect. And I did it. Like, I gave birth. I did it. I did what I was so terrified to do. It was so This moment right here is what women dream of, or at least I dreamt of. Eric is right here kissing my forehead. My newborn baby is on my chest, and he's just so completely innocent and so completely perfect. It was in that moment that I was like, this is all I need from life. Like, this is my family, and I could not ask for anything else. How did how did I get so lucky? The girl that hated marriage and hated relationships and didn't want a family, like, how am I here? And I have a perfect baby and a perfect husband, and God who protected me and Paxton all night long. And it was the best moment of my life. I was seriously like on a high, and it's really not a feeling or a moment that I could explain, but I know if you're a mom, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're just the absolute love that you have for this human that you just met. It is 100% love at first sight. Oh, okay. After that, they took Paxton to his heating lamp bed. They checked his vitals and drew some blood, and then they like cleaned everything up, and me, Eric, and Paxton got 30 minutes of skin to skin time. We got to just be together. We got to fall in love with the real Paxton that is here. And oh man, I highly suggest that you insist on getting skin to skin time. So then they allowed visitors to come in, so our immediate family got to come in and meet Paxton for the first time. It is amazing just watching people fall in love. It is like the purest form of love that I could have ever witnessed. Just seeing people fall in love with Paxton the way that I had was just so special. So about at like 11 a.m., my epidural had worn off, so I was able to walk. They put me in a wheelchair. I held Paxton and they wheeled me off to my recovery room. I remember one of the nights, me and my mom wanted to walk to the gift shop just because I wanted to get out of the room because I had been in there for like 3 days. I remember just leaving Eric with Paxton, and he was on the bed, and I think I have a picture of it. I'll put it right here if I do. He was just sitting there with Paxton underneath his arm, and they were just watching sports, and I was like, this is what I can do for the rest of my life. Absolutely. I don't really remember being in too much pain. I just remember being like exhausted. Like I'd wake up, feed Paxton, and I'd want to go back to sleep. And I remember wanting a bunch of food. On January 28th, which was my original due date, we got to leave the hospital. My mom warned me of this. I felt like so weird leaving the hospital with a baby. I was like, no one's gonna stop me? Like, you're entrusting this baby with me and Eric. Me and Eric. Are you sure? Are you sure? And then we got in the car, and that started the most amazing journey in our lives. And it was the slowest, most cautious car ride I have ever been in my life. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up so that I know you like these sit-down videos. I don't know, I like doing vlogs and I like doing sit-down videos. They're both like really fun to make either way. And subscribe! Okay, I gotta go get Paxton. Bye!